Just Jax here, and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to have a little play with felting. I've got a little kit here. I haven't tried felting properly. I did a little felting at college, but that wasn't this kind of felting. That was making sort of textured areas and whatnot. This is a little kit that's meant to make a dog. That's why I got it. So we're going to have a little look, see what we got to work with. I have played with felting needles before when I've made some little pom-pom characters, which I will do in another video. That's these little guys, and you just use the felting needles to bring parts of them together. So that'll be quite fun when I show you how I make these little guys. Little penguin here. Of course, the first thing that I made was a little doggy. So yes, on with the felting. Now, I had a brief little read. So we've got a couple of felting needles. One considerably longer than the other. These are really, really sharp and barbed at the tip. So that's how they work. They'll push and pull the fibres together. This is the little felting mat. We're going to use that so we don't dink the work surface and break these, because they do break really easily. While I was using them with my little pom-pom guys, I think I broke 3 in total, and thankfully managed to find the tips each time. Otherwise that would have been an issue. So yes, our little kit, pop that over there. So our little mat to use, we have a little bit of interior wadding. This is what the body, the bulk of the body and all the limbs and everything will be made from. And then we have a little strip of what I believe is meant to be white, but it looks grey. A little strip of black and a whole heap of brown. So I guess it's going to be a little brown pup we're doing. Now, first things first, we are going to need to separate this. Now, when you separate this into little pieces, we're going to start off with the head. You don't want to cut this, because cut fibres don't tend to knit together very well when you poke them with this. They always seem to be a little bit loose on the edges, so you just want to pull it off. So let's start by working out our doggy and trying to get it into relatively proportioned bits. So if we say head, body, we've got to get 4 legs out of this. We might steal a little bit from over there, so we've got to, don't want to have all wonky legs. So they all feel roughly the same. Head, body. The tail's only going to be little, so we won't need a bit for this, for the tail. We can just use straight up brown, and same for the ears, we can just use straight up brown. So let's put these bits over there for a second, and let's start with the head. So we're going to take a little piece of this off, and we're going to ball this together to try and make a head shape, and then we're going to use this to wrap around. Right, so we've got a rough little head shape there, and we'll start out with a little needle to begin with, and you're going to want to try and avoid your fingers and stab this in and out fairly quickly to try and bind it all together. Now, do expect to get pricked several times during this, because it does happen, especially when you're doing it quite quick. You will prick your finger as you're going. So I'd suggest for any of you that aren't too fond of blood, you have a pack of plasters to hand. And plus you don't want your work to be all bloodied up. And now we're going to be doing this until it starts to form the shape that we want. So it can take a bit of time. Again, when I've done a little bit of this in the past with the pom-pom pals, I haven't had a felting mat. I haven't even had a piece of, it's just foam. It's just foam, so you don't need it's not a piece of specialist equipment, it's just a bit of foam. So if you've got any packaging laying around, it's like a lot of appliances, electronics and whatnot will come with some polystyrene foam, you can use that. And we're not going too deep. If I show you, we're going about, well, the barbs stop there. So going any deeper isn't really going to help you. You just want the barbed bits to be doing their job. So let's try and construct a little doggy head. And you want it to be relatively firm. So as it's firming up, you'll know you're doing a good job. So like this end is a little bit firmer than that end's still quite loose. We'll come around there. Now what I've done, so like updates wise, I have raised the tripod by about 1/2 foot, so now it's a little over 1 meter above my work surface, so hopefully everything will be in focus. As I had seen come I think it was part 6 of Cosmic Cat, the grand finale, that was completely in focus. That was also because my head didn't bob in and out of recording for that, because it was only a very short video just doing finishing touches. So the camera didn't try to focus on my head and then forget to focus on the work when the head was out again. That's still a learning in progress there, because I've still got to learn some more about my camera as well. Right, I'm going to be taking this a little bit away from the felting mat because I work better free-handed. But like I say, it's there for a purpose, and if you haven't done this before, or you're not feeling confident, or you do mind getting pricked, then keep working to that. But we're going to start to get a bit more of the shape as well. Now, because this is going to be a little doggy's head, we're going to want it cinched in a bit at the front, so like the muzzle, and then a little bit wider at the back for the skull. So we also want those fibres to mat together, so it's not so airy-fairy up that side. And then we'll look at a little bit more shaping, and then we'll look at getting some brown on here. You'll also hear, if I bring this close to the mic, that's the sound you want. Bring it back over here. I'm trying to get my mic in a good place as well so it doesn't click on my necklace, because that was what those clicks were in the end. They weren't me, they weren't the record. Well, some of the clicks were the paintbrush. You could see that, the paintbrushes being swished around in the pot. The other random clicks that were coming out of nowhere were my necklace. I've got a little glass heart necklace, and it was hitting the metal zip of my hoodie. So I've tried a slightly different placement with the mic. And it's a good little little number I've got, so it doesn't need to be as close as I thought it did. It picks me up quite well. And also I'm going to try not to whisper so much. That's when I'm really thinking about what I'm doing, not so much about what you can hear. So I'll try and be a bit more aware of that. I'll try and be aware as well of you being able to see what I'm doing, not coming too far this way. But I'll still be having an experiment with the general setup and how at the moment I'm doing this bird's eye view, which I really like, because you can see most of what I'm doing that way. But when I do eventually get the little room upstairs sorted out, I'll be able to do some more face-on recording. So when I do things like this, I probably do more face-on stuff, so you can see it from a better angle, like models and whatnot. Paintings and drawings will be going to be good from a bird's eye view perspective, because you'll see them best that way. And sculpting and model making and felting, I think, would be a lot better face on. So that's the plans, but at the moment we're just rolling with the bird's eye view. Right, we're starting to get a little bit of shape here. I'll move that out of the way for a second. You can see that. A little bit pinched in here, a little bit more bulbous back here. We're going to pinch this in a little bit more if we can. That's looking quite nice. And round it off a little bit. I think that's not a bad little head shape to start out. And you can see it's got a little bit more body to it now, even up this end. It's still a little bit fluffy, a little bit airy-fairy that end, but I think that's going to be okay. Let me just do a tiny bit more. Now, since I've raised the camera, you can see also a little bit more of what's going on around me. Like, I have a wooden container that the father-in-law had made that's being used at the moment over here to raise my lighting up and whatnot. I don't really want that in the shot. And you can just about see my weight over here holding everything in place. I also don't really want that in shot, so I'm going to try during editing to bring that all out of shot just by zooming in a touch. So we'll just have a pause for a moment, just while I sort my thumb out, because I stabbed my thumb. 1 second. Yep. And we're back. It wasn't a big prick. I just didn't want there to be any red rock up on our little doggy head here. So I think that's a pretty good little shape to start out. So let's get some brown, and we're going to start to wrap this around the head. So we can always build it up. So we'll just start out with a little bit to begin with, and this is going to go on like this. You just wrap it around and start felting it back in with the felting needle. I'm going to try and keep that same shape as we go in. So we don't want to lose the shape. We just want to add colour. And we're going to build it up because it's going to be easier to work with a little bit at a time. And you never need quite as much as you think you do. So little and often tends to be a good rule of thumb with this stuff. And we want it to bind with the white underneath. So we don't want it to come away when we manhandle it, when it's a finished piece. Oh yes, so yes, with a tripod, so hopefully, I know it won't be the end of the world if the wooden crate's still in view and the little weight in the corner still in view. Well, no, that won't be the end of the world. I do like the look of the videos when you can just see the work surface and the work and not all the random other bits kicking around. Now, as we're going, I think we're going to be learning different ways to do this. So like I said, I've only ever used felting needles for the little pom-pom pals. I've never used them to actually felt a shape. I've never felted a ball like this. I've only felted a ball in the sense of, like at college, the last time I played with felt, in all honesty, or like this proper felt, you pulled it out in strips and you used water and washing up liquid to turn it into simple things like balls or strips of material. Never used it in this sense, and definitely never used felting needles. But as you can see, it's starting to bind together now. So I think this is going to be a longer process. So I wasn't too sure how long this would take. I was looking at it when I decided that we're going to try and do this today. I thought, oh, perhaps that'll be, you know, a little half-hour project or something. I've got a feeling it's going to be much longer than that. I think I might spend half an hour just putting the head together. But we'll see. Perhaps because I'm a first timer really at this. And any of you out there who are professional felters or have done this, you know, this is more of a hobby for you, more of a pastime, you could give me pointers to how I'm going wrong or how I'm going right, or if I am doing it right, and it does just take time. Right, we're going to get a bit more brown on there because we want the whole thing to be a nice cover of brown, kind of like this bit here. We don't want to see any of the white peek through, so let's get another bit. And let's wrap it around. It's almost like you're mummifying it. We'll try and remember to keep that shape as we're going. So we don't want to lose the shape that we started out with. We'll try the mat again so we can go a bit more ferocious. Yes, as for audio, I'm quite happy with the audio. Like I say, getting rid of the few clicks here or there, which should be gone if I've set my mic up on myself right. So the only clicks you should hear from now on are ones that are me doing something and not my necklace click-clacking. Right, I think we're starting to get somewhere. So far we have only pricked ourselves once, so that's, I'm going to take that as a success. So we're going to try not to lose that shape. We need the muzzle to stay considerably smaller than the rest. Anywhere where it's pale, that's when we'll just get little bits and start attaching them. So we're getting some nice coverage. Where it's a little bit thicker. We've still got a bit, the muzzle's getting a little bit carried away here. But I can feel it's all starting to come together. Leave that for a second. So we're sort of getting a little head shape, or keeping a little head shape. So we're just going to pop a little bit over. We're just going to get a tiny bit. So where do we need it? mainly around the front here. The back's not too bad, but the front does need a little bit more. So let's just get a little bit. Maybe even smaller than that. Put across there. So let's try that. It's starting, we've started to pull it away from where we want it to go. I think we've got a good coverage now. But I think we're starting to lose some of the shape. Let's go back to the folding mat, see if we can get that shape back. Might try the bigger needle, see if that has better purchase. This might be better for the arms and legs. So let's pop that over there for a second. Let's try the bigger one. See, it's slightly chunkier. You can hear the difference if I bring it over here. You can hear it's grabbing more. So let's try that. Let's try the big one for a little bit. It's definitely grabbing more. I want that to come in. So we don't want to lose that shape of the head. We want the muzzle not looking too bad though. I think the head's going to be okay. It's not as pronounced as I'd like it to be. I'd like it to be a little bit bigger. Perhaps we just need to work. Perhaps we just need to work the felt a bit more. This is a learning, you know, this is a learning the game as well as learning the editing. Like I say, I haven't really done this properly before, so it might be a case of I need to work it more. Let's find out. And perhaps I'm not going in far enough. It's definitely feeling firmer since I've gone in further, so perhaps it's that. Like I say, if anyone's watching who does do this more regularly or more professionally, you might be screaming at me right now. So I'm either doing it right at long last, or I'm still doing it wrong. But we'll find out. It's not always your approach, it's the result you get. So I quite often in life end up doing harder things to achieve something that others find easy. But they feel easy to me. So again, referencing a lot of the things that I've said in my videos, like, you find out what works for you as well. Again, if you're a first time and you're having a go at this like I am, you might find a completely different method works for you. You might find the slow, shallow ones work better than the faster, deeper ones. You might find putting it in at a slight angle works better. I'm trying to go fairly down. Some I feel like I need to pull in. Again, I might not be doing that right. But that definitely feels a whole heap firmer since I've been doing that. And it is taking a bit more of a muzzle shape. So let's keep at what we're doing right now, because it's working for us. I'm also giving it a slight squeeze around the muzzle. Again, I don't quite know if that's helping or not, but it's definitely helping me with keep in mind where I want that shape. So I think we're going to need to do that with the rest of the head. I think this is a process that's going to definitely take longer than I thought. And that doesn't matter. It'll be worth it if the result comes out how I want it. Let's try doing that to the rest of the head. Let's try this way. So I still want the head shape. I want it to firm up a little bit, but I don't want to lose the shape, because we've actually got a really nice shape going. But it does look more right in the muzzle, where I've been doing these faster, deeper ones. Tell you what, your arm's going to get a good workout doing this. I can feel the muscle up here doing its thing. Well, this is starting to look a bit more together. Than it did but a few moments ago. So I'm thinking this is going to be more of the method I use. Just deeper. We'll rework the muzzle a little bit because we want that to be cinched in a bit more. Well, that's not looking too bad. Nice little head shape. Go with that. Let's pop that aside for the second. Let's get the body put together. So again with the body, you want it a little bit, well, it's kind of like the reverse of the head. You want it a little bit bigger at the front where the chest is and a little bit smaller at the back where the bum's going to be. So we'll just squish that together and use some of this to wrap around and create more of the shape we want. Let's try start putting that together. I think we'll do looser surface ones to begin with to start to form the shape, and then that's when we'll do some faster, deeper ones once we've got a bit of a shape put together. I can get why this is quite therapeutic, even though you've got to be quite aware of what you're doing. You don't want to stab yourself. You can easily, this is one of those things where I could find myself, if I don't pay attention, just watching myself create rather than telling you what I'm thinking. I want to try and do a bit more of that. So you don't have big pauses, pretty much silence. Though it's nice to hear the sounds of what I'm doing. Like this, I do like this sound. It's quite relaxing. Right, we're starting to get a little bit tighter now. So I think we'll bring this over here. And we'll go for some of those long, quicker ones. I'm going to cinch in the bum first, and then we'll go and cinch in the chest. And yes, with this better setup with the mic, I haven't been adding any background music. But if you do prefer that, or you know that there is some background music for these quieter moments, then please do let me know in the comments what you'd like. So obviously, you know, I like what I'm doing regardless, but it'd be nice to hear, you know, if you have a preference as the viewer, what your preference would be. Obviously I won't be able to please everybody. Some people are going to like it this way, some people are going to like it more with the music, but it'd still be good feedback either way, because then I can always mix it up for people. So if it's like, you know, a half and half thing, or even if it's just one or two prefer the music, every now and again I could put some background music back in the videos. But if you do like just the sounds of what I'm doing and me talking, then I'm also fine with that. That's what I hear. I don't tend to have background music playing when I'm working. I mean, sometimes I do, don't get me wrong, have a CD playing, stick some music on YouTube, but a lot of the times it'll just be me thinking about what I'm doing, or at certain points not thinking and just watching. Right, we are starting to get a little body shape together. Our doggy. Now this is going to tighten up a bit more when we add the brown, so I'm happy with doing what I did with the first one and having this not so tight to begin with, but then it tightening up so much when the brown's put on. Again, that might be wrong for people who know what they're doing, but it feels right for me starting out, so I'm going to roll with what feels right and adjust as I'm going or as I learn more about this little process. I think we'll do a little bit more, and then we'll get some of that brown on here. And also, this is early days, so I'm going to be having, you know, a little experiment with all kinds of arty content. So I've done a lot of canvases to start out. They were some work for a friend who'd been waiting patiently for those. So I thought that was a good place to start. I'll also be doing some more crafty like things like this. I guess this falls into sculpture as well, but some sculpture. Like I like playing with mod rock. I like creating little creatures. Now this looks like a bigger version of the head, but hopefully when we put the brown on, it'll shape up a bit more like a body. So let's have a look at adding that. So let's get a fair bit to start, because this is getting it wrapped around the body now. So I'm going to start mummifying him again. Get some put over the front there. Some over the back. Right, we'll put this on first and see how we look at it. See how we're looking. We're going to go, well, how I'm doing it is I'm going quite loose all over to begin with, just to get, rather than work one area while the rest is all loose and airy-fairy, I'm trying to give it a little bit of a needling all over. So I haven't got to be too concerned about holding bits in place. It'll all hold itself in place. And then I can go back round and do a bit of fine-tuning. Trying not to slip off down the bottom here, and I'm trying not to bob my head in and out so much to help with the focus. Otherwise the camera then focuses in on my head and doesn't focus in on the work again afterwards. Again, still learning how that camera works exactly. Didn't come with a whole heap of instructions, but that's okay. I tend to learn better by just doing anyway. Working it out as I'm going. You get a feel for things. I started a while back trying to learn tattooing, because that's something else I'm interested in, so I could tattoo myself more. And when I first started, so unfortunately I had to take a pause from that. One of my girls wasn't too happy at the time. She was just an only girl at that point, and you know, we found out it was basically she was lonely. She needed some friendship, some doggy friendship, hence her sister coming along. So anyway, I started then, but then obviously she took, you know, Nova, she took priority. I needed to make sure she was happy and get her back on track. So the tattooing, the learning anyway, took a bit of a backseat. But I do want to pick that back up again. And this would be a good time to do it. But yeah, the point of bringing that up is when I started like researching YouTube, you know, learning what exactly is going on, what am I supposed to be, how am I supposed to tune these things? I didn't even know I was supposed to tune them to begin with. Fool that I was, like, oh, you just pick them up and go. No, there's a lot of learning involved. If you want to do it right anyway, and I wanted to do it right because I don't mind if I have hiccups on my own body. If I were to tattoo my other half, I don't want hiccups on his body. So I was having a look, and a lot of the content creators that did tattooing would say it's, you know, you'll know by the feel of the machine, or you'll know by the sound of the machine. Now, when I first started looking at them and listening to my machine and looking at my machine, I didn't quite get what they were saying. It's only as I kept going and researching more and looking more that, for one, I found out that the kit that I had was all shading guns, so that wasn't helping to begin with. I couldn't work out why I had 3 shading guns in this kit and not a liner. So that was good to learn. And then when I did get a liner and started to practice on oranges to begin with, I started to understand what they were saying, because I was hearing the differences then, and I was feeling the differences. So I think basically the point of it is, I will end up saying that as well at some point, and I'm going to try and remind myself to also add, the more that you do it, the more you'll understand the sound and the feel. So when you very first pick something up, like with this for instance, it felt different to what I'm doing now, and it wasn't completely right. Now, like I say, I've noticed the difference in feeling, even since from just starting the head. And this feels right, and it even sounds right. It sounds like it's gripping. So for any of you out there who are learning via YouTube, I think that's a good thing that could be added to people teaching. It's really good to know that. It's like, yes, you will know by the sound and you will know by the feel, but you have to keep trying first to understand that, so you have the sound differences. Like, if you first pick up this felting needle and some felt, you can barely, if I bring this by the mic, hear anything. But as you're going and you work out a better technique, you can hear a lot, and you can also feel it. So yeah, I'll try and remember when I do say things like that to emphasize that you won't understand it straight away, but once you start having a go, you will start to notice the difference in the sounds. Because that's how I did with the tattoo gun as well. Like, I didn't understand what they were saying to begin with, and I even said to my other half, this is no good, I don't know what they mean with you can hear the difference. I can't hear any difference. And when you're pulling a line in tattooing, it's like, I don't know what they're on about when they say you can feel the difference. That's because I couldn't to begin with, because I wasn't doing it right. It's only as you keep going and get better and learn exactly what it is you're meant to be hearing and meant to be feeling, but only through trying it, that it suddenly made sense. I had a breakthrough day when I got the right gun with the right setup. You could hear the difference straight away as well. And I do remember telling my other half that. I was quite thrilled, because it's, you know, it's progress. So you knew you were doing something right, you were getting somewhere, and I could feel the difference between when, say, the machine wasn't fast enough and when it was fast enough, or even the other way, when it was too fast. So yeah, it's going to be the same with this, and probably a lot of things that you try that are sensory orientated. The more you do it, and the more you just have a go, that's when these things that people say will make sense to you. That's when, say, the penny drops. So hopefully that's what I'm experiencing now, because this does feel and sound so much better compared to my first little head. But I'm feeling way more confident with it already. I don't expect it to be perfect when I'm done, but it's definitely going to look and feel better than I thought it would now. I thought it might remain a little bit airy-fairy. I thought, in all honesty, it might fall apart. But it's feeling like it's really taking, like there's really nice and firm. Even up that end, where I barely worked it. So we are getting a lovely little body shape here now. And it is definitely something that takes longer than you think. This is only a little felting project, but it is definitely going to take me longer than half an hour to do this. Which, like I say, I don't mind. That's good. I was going to have a couple of things planned for today in case this was just a short little one. But I think this is probably going to take most of the day to do. Although, as I'm picking up speed, it's like I don't feel like the body's taking me as long as the head did to get to this point. In fact, I think we can look at adding some more brown now. So that's feeling good. I know that's going to firm up some more as I'm going. Now, all I need this for, so I'm going to try and remember that as well, is we need this for legs, tail and ears. So I want to bear in mind not to use all of that up, but I also don't want to go so skimpy on the body. I want it to have a nice coverage. So we're going to do that. I'm just going to work on the little bum region first, and then we'll come back to the upper body there. I'm going to try and get the bum all brown. And I know I'm definitely approaching this with more confidence now. And how I've got it is I've got my finger, my ring finger, resting in a certain point so the needle can't go any further than that, because I don't want it to at the moment. It's also helping with a bit of control. I might have to pause in a moment. I'm starting to get a running nose and I don't want you to have me sniffling. while you're trying to appreciate the sounds of what's happening. I get hay fever, and my nose seems to permanently run, and it is rather hot where I'm in England. Not that the voice and the accent wouldn't be a giveaway. And at the moment we have got a rather hot spell that's due to last the next couple of weeks, and whether it has or hasn't, my body has decided that that's sent the pollen count up. So the nose is runny, though thankfully not too sneezy, and thankfully the eyes aren't too runny, otherwise that might be an issue right now. I'd have definitely pricked myself more than once. So it's nice because I've got some tomatoes growing. I love a good tomato, and they need the sun. They have been green for a while now, so they need a little bit of that sun. I've pulled a load of leaves back, so they're already seeing the benefit. I'll have to show you that one day for those of you out there who love food and love tomatoes and gardening. I'm not a brilliant gardener, but I do enjoy it, and I've definitely learned by doing. But yes, back to our lovely little doggy here. This is looking and feeling really good. I'm just going to cinch this bottom in a little bit. I need to add a tiny bit more brown in the derriere region because there's a couple of little pale patches. But once we've got all of the components together, we'll go back and look at what we have left and what needs to be touched up most, rather than go through it all now, get to the end and find out there's nothing left, or like get towards the legs, say, and find out there's going to be one white leg because we've used up all the brown already. So that's going to be the game, the aim of the game. I'm going to do that. So that is getting nice and firm there, not hard, just firm compared to that end. I have to put a bit more pressure into squeezing it. So let's get some more of this lovely brown. Let's bring it around the upper part of the body, across those